Hey everyone, welcome to Mind Coast. Thanks for being here. This is a very special intention, and I hope we all take something away from this. Let's begin with our reflection. Intention 6, losing to lust. Are you in control of your body? Do you possess discipline over your sexual urges and can clearly choose self-control time and time again? Or is that a challenge you struggle with at every instance it's presented? Or you just don't currently have what it takes to fight? Is this something that you actually want to overcome? And are these bodily pleasures something that you're willing to leave behind? Or is there a part of you that can't help but crave physical pleasure, whether that's self-induced or sought out from another person? Do these urges seem immune to time or completely outside your grasp? Are they what leads your decisions, setting your focus, energy, motivation, and discipline astray? Are you tired of dealing with and succumbing to that weakness without an end in sight? How can we put this habit of self-destruction completely to rest and reclaim our freedom? Self-control in any regard is one of the hardest traits for anyone to consistently embody. But when we're dealing with sexuality and bodily desires, that challenge in maintaining self-control ascends to an entirely more difficult struggle. But giving into that struggle is what the world endorses as a necessity to a complete living experience. On almost every level of society, even as early as childhood, what's being pushed by mass media and influencers is an obsession with sex, not its God-given purpose or the spiritual significance of that kind of connection, but just the act itself and what that experience can do for our social credit. With notions like that existing all around us, as we grow up and become aware of the newness and intensity of our sexuality, so many of us are disposed to chasing sexual experiences wherever and as soon as they present themselves, believing that our life and identity is deficient without them. But just that thought is all it takes for the seed of lust to be planted in our mind and body. Some people think that this only relates to males, or that they're more susceptible to lustfulness than women. But even if males are generally more outright in demonstrating their intentions with actions, lust can take root in the heart of anyone and exist just as much in thoughts and in privacy as it does in actions and in public. But what makes it so hard to realize as problematic and destructive is how natural the onsetting of those urges come from within, and how physically and psychologically rewarding it feels to satisfy them. But in stimulating our bodies with sexual sensations for physical satisfaction in any manner prematurely before marriage, as opposed to our mind and body collectively as a spirit, deepening its unity through the intimately shared magnitude of euphoria of sex as intended. What happens instead is our body responds and fixates itself not on the soul it was intended for unity with, but on merely the heightened physical pleasure of sex itself, and craves that experience again. And each time that we satisfy that craving, it only continues to grow and deepen as a demand from our mind and body. This kind of psychological addiction so easily spreads into and affects different parts of our life. For some, maybe not completely or to the awareness of others, but all of the time, energy, and focus spent satisfying the influence of our unchecked sexual appetite could have been poured into the people we love or developing ourselves, and that adds up with time. Sometimes it takes realizing how far we've fallen short of our own standards and capabilities to recognize how much vitality we've wasted in pleasuring ourselves, and the urges that drove this really were problematic and not under control. But just realizing isn't enough for us to break free. Nowhere near that, actually. Part of the objective for this intention lies in revealing that sex, whether it's masturbatory or with a partner, automatically creates a spiritual connection. Many people think that it's nothing more than a physical act, but internally, there's always an exchange that takes place with each sexual act. Starting with masturbation, anyone who doesn't understand already needs to know that it's simply a defective way to live. Self-pleasure is always accessible because it lies fully within our independent discretion. And whenever urges arise, its constant availability is how it becomes addictive so easily and so quickly. There are people as distinguished as medical professionals who say that masturbation is healthy and a good form of stress relief. But engaging in self-pleasure really only brings a moment's distraction. It causes us to crave and prioritize it more and more without end. And alongside the physical insatiability, there's also the strain that self-pleasure has on the mind from the content used for that purpose. Every time we consume social media, pornography, or any other content as a means of arousal, we further condition the influence of our mind and body, which constitutes our spirit, to direct its attraction towards physical features and pleasure in and of itself, as opposed to the spirit and soul that constitutes an individual. There is no final satisfaction for a lustful spirit when giving into it only creates a stronger hold over us. And if any of us are considering a solution can be found in a relationship that will demand self-control, we should avoid making that mistake. The spirit can never operate in lust and love at the same time, and entering into a relationship with even the smallest fragment of lust in our heart will make it only a matter of time before those same temptations re-emerge. When those physical desires outgrow the familiarity of our partner and attracts us towards other people or sources of pleasure, we can't help feeling prone to serving that addiction, even while it damages our relationships. And each time this happens, our emotional and spiritual sensitivity diminishes in exchange for an increasingly more volatile sex drive. Like any drug or addictive substance, lust can even more effectively and unnoticeably become a hindrance that we can't help giving into. And the simple truth is that a hole as bottomless as that has no easy way of coming out of. If you're tired of losing to lust, then the only way to reclaim your self-control is to admit that it's a problem and face it head on. This specific journey of recovery is all centered around patience and discipline, obviously in our actions going forward, but largely in how long we can withstand the urges that our bodies demand. It's been advised that engaging in physical or mental exercises are healthy distractions when we're feeling salacious. And that's good for building an initial footing of self-control. But it's not enough to be a solution. That can only be found when, instead of looking to distractions, we're able to actually sit with the fullness of those urges and feelings when they arise and enforce abstinence upon ourselves until they've completely dissolved. In having that uninhibited ability lies the essence of self-control. And for some of us, the simple truth is that we're very far away from that capability. But that's why we start with what we're capable of, like creating distractions for ourselves. Because in doing so, we grow to realize that those feelings of desire, as overwhelming as they may be, are just passing. And even in their presence, we still have control over how we choose to spend our energy. This truly is one of the most difficult trials of willpower that anyone could ever face. And it's hard, but necessary to say this, for all of us who are fighting this battle. Stumbling along the way to recovery is inevitable. What we've engraved in our spirit with acts of repetition doesn't change quickly, but that only makes it more important when we slip up to focus on the purpose of our struggle and the freedom that awaits at its conclusion. Because without carrying that with us throughout this intense of a journey, getting swept away in the disappointment of our present self and letting that turn to hopelessness is just too susceptible for us in our humanity. Even though this may be the hardest time ever for us to remember that we're more than the sum of our mistakes, we have to hold on to that no matter what. It's our only way through this fight. In this fight, even in all of its difficulty, in all of its duration, and in all that it drains from us, it can be won without a doubt. So right now, if you haven't or are still hesitating, take the first step. And if you already have, just keep going no matter what. There's a feeling of emptiness that's within reach for all of us, and this feeling fully pertains to the lust that we hold within ourselves. When we've grown to attain it, every sexual trigger, whether it be a perverse website, provocative posts on social media, or in-person encounters, all that once held us captive will no longer enforce a reaction from our bodies, which in turn will no longer demand that we act on them. That fullness of control brings with it an abundance of energy with which we can actually be, remain as, and build up our very best self. The amount of power, energy, confidence, happiness, discipline, clarity, and independent capability that lies beyond a hurdle such as lust is truly astonishing. We'll never be all that we're capable of until we overcome that obstacle. And so, while some of us continue to live in self-mutilation without realizing or accepting its harm upon our spirit and potential, and while others may find themselves growing and stumbling repeatedly, yet are always rising to the challenge of overcoming themselves. As much as we should feel discontent and shame with who we are, just as strongly, if not more, we should trust in our ability to become a greater self. The only thing left to do is to keep up the good fight, no matter what, and as long as it takes. What is darkness right now can always become light, and the world needs you, the best version of you, your story, and your light. Whenever the light you hold becomes too hard to recognize, all you need is sincerity, to call out to Jesus, the greatest power we could ever hold. He'll make the best effort that you can bring forth, enough to keep going, and enough for victory. I promise. Thanks for listening, everyone. Feel welcome to join our community, and I hope we meet again. Peace.